All right. Let's make sure we got this phone set so we're not letting it fall 4 stories to its death.
Oh, we're live.
I'd much rather prevent the phone from falling 4 stories to its death than Derek Wetmore.
Well,
because we can always find a new 1500ESPN.com senior editor.
Where are you going to get a new iPhone?
I'm Phil Mackey. That's Derek Wetmore. We're live at Hammond Stadium. Or if you're watching this after we're done, then we're no longer live. We're just at Hammond Stadium.
That's right.
But thank you for watching. Let's start out with the first Twins lineup of the spring here.
How about that?
There's a couple notable names missing, but we can talk about that. So we'll throw the lineup out, and then we will dissect and overanalyze and make projections about the season based on the first spring lineup. We're not even in March yet, but here we go.
Leading off, center fielder Byron Buxton, and then you've got Jorge
I feel like
Polanco.
You should be doing the old Yankees number 2.
Somebody said there's a photographer in spring training here and said, he's like, hey, are we getting a photo tomorrow with number 2? He was trying to talk in code as if everybody here doesn't know that's Brian Dozier, and I made the Derek Jeter comparison.
Number 2, Brian Dozier.
Batting first for the Minnesota Twins.
All right, start over. Sorry.
Byron Buxton, Jorge Polanco, Miguel Sano, Kenny Vargas, Byung-Ho Park, Max Kepler, and then your bottom third, you've got Eddie Rosario, Jason Castro, and Ehire Adrianza.
Okay.
So there's obviously some opening day starters that are not in that lineup, but I think there's still some interesting things to pull from this.
So Dozier was obviously traded at some point here, and
sometime here.
On the Joe Mauer front, what is the spring plan for Joe Mauer?
Well,
is it just keep him from falling apart in preseason, or what is?
That's right. It's a little interesting that you wouldn't. I mean, it's Friday night's a home game, and so if you're thinking, the classical way that you'd maybe set up a spring training lineup, it's, well, let's get the A lineup out there the first night. Let's show the home fans not only the nice new uniforms, but the product they're going to expect on April 3rd. Mm-hmm. And I don't think this is really that close to it. It's kind of close, but it's not a carbon copy of your opening day lineup.
So what I like here, and I wonder if when Mauer slots in, I'm sure he's batting second or maybe even first. There's a chance that this front office could be pushing for a Joe Mauer leadoff situation.
I wouldn't be against him hitting first or second. I know a lot of people have been talking about maybe bumping him down. That would be an interesting ego blow. But the plan, from what I can surmise based on talking with Paul Molitor, talking with some people around here at Twin Spring Training, is basically keep him healthy. Like, there are going to be a lot of people that bristle at this. I know for a fact. They say, oh, what, is Joe Mauer hurt already? Not based on the indication that I've been given, not based on my conversation with Mauer the other day. He's fine, but what does he have to prove, really? Like, are you going to give him ground balls at first base on February 24th and see that, oh, yep, he still knows how to field a grounder, and he still knows how to go be the cutoff guy in the middle of the infield on throws from the outfield.
So his birthday's in May, I believe. So
April.
He's April.
He'll be 34.
34.
Yeah.
So we are so far past, in my opinion, taking cheap shots and making fun of his lack of durability. He's not durable. So that's a fact at this point.
We can agree.
If he was 24 and had Paul Molitor wasn't durable in his 20s, so the jury was still out. When you're 34, you are who you are, and expecting him to play every day, like, he doesn't play every day, and that's the reality, and that's who he is. So instead of taking shots at him and taking what's the solution? And I think the solution is find a number of games and a pace, 4 days a week, whatever it is during the season, that makes sense and that could keep him on the field on a regular basis. And then give him advantageous matchups as a hitter. He's no longer the same guy against left-handed pitching that he was even 3 years ago. Yeah. So instead of going in saying Mauer's going to play 145 or 150 games and he's going to be an everyday player, how about going in with a pace of 125 games, and he's not going to play against the best left-handed pitching in the game. You can use switch hitting Kenny Vargas or whatever combination of replacements. And then from there, is he worth anywhere near $23 million? No, clearly not. But that ship has sailed. Yeah. The durability ship has sailed. So if this is part of their plan to just kind of take his workload back a notch and maybe make him more, maybe he turns into a 285 hitter in 120 games, which might be more valuable, and a guy who gets on base at a 370 clip or something.
Right. Well, There's two things that I want to pick out of that.
You can have your
One
notebook
that,
back,
yeah, I was
by the way.
wondering maybe you're hanging on to that for safekeeping, or check my other scoops that are in here.
I've got my own notebook here.
Yours a little bit bigger.
Just let me set this here.
Yeah, jeez. I was gonna say the scoop.
Let me
per,
whip this out.
Scoop per square inch ratio is leaning in my favor. The Joe Mauer conversation, though, has two threads to it based off what you just said. And first is that most of these guys starting their workload on Friday. Joe Mauer not starting his workload till Wednesday. With that being said, because of the long spring training, because of the World Baseball Classic, because of the fact that the season doesn't begin until April 3rd, and there's nothing that you need to learn about Joe Mauer in Fort Myers. Like, all you need to learn about Joe Mauer in Fort Myers is that he's still alive. Like, that he reported for camp, things are good, at least relatively speaking.
They do a pulse check on every player, and there was a pulse.
Passed with flying colors,
okay.
according to my
Some
sources.
fans might disagree, but
The other thing to pull out of this, as you mentioned, is he going to be worth $23 million? And that's not the question to me. Here's the truth. The reality of the situation that the Twins face. He's going to be paid $23 million. How can you get as much of that value back as you possibly can if you're Minnesota? And for me, it's protecting him against left-handers. It's resting him at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, and maybe making him into more of like a quasi-part-time player. I think that's the best way to capitalize on his value. I talked to Mauer about this the other day, though, and he's not happy with that suggestion. Even the words part-time player kind of made him grin like, are you serious? And he basically said, I think that, he said, my goal is to win games. And in my opinion, we have our best chance to do that when I'm on the field. He said a lot of people around here agree with that too, so our goal this year, based on his conversation with Paul Molitor, is how can I stay on the field as much as possible, and how can I stay healthy and continue to be productive? He said, how can we get the most out of me? I think he's got the question right. I'm just not convinced he has the answer.
they
right.
aren't better when he's on the field all the time, though. Obviously, they were certainly better with him on the field in April and in like July.
Yeah, I think it was
when
August he tore it up, or July or August.
When he's well rested or coming off of an All-Star break or whatever it is. Just one more thing, because I want to ask you about Byron Buxton here too.
Oh, sure.
I would say, to his question, to his answer, I guess, to your question, are the Twins better with him on the field? If you want to look analytically and statistically, he has been worth 3 wins above replacement the last 3 years total.
Right.
So technically, he's been worth an average of 1 win above replacement.
Sure.
Compared to whoever would be that quad A, but you're looking for more than that out of an everyday Joe Mauer.
That's right.
Obviously.
And
So,
I think the answer to the question is as messy as you would expect it to be with Joe Mauer and the Twins, right? The answer to the question is, are the Twins better with Joe Mauer on the field? The answer is yes, but. The answer is yes, but sometimes maybe not. Yes, but maybe only if they treat him in this certain way and he's healthy and all of these factors that go. It's not a simple yes or no, which, is shocking if you fell asleep in 2009 and are just waking up and you're hearing, yes, but, what do you mean? Like, yeah, Joe Mauer's the best catcher in baseball.
I'd be very confused.
There are a lot of things that would be confusing. Also, welcome to Facebook Live.
Yeah.
This is a fun new thing that we do. I'm glad you found us. You must have been one of the early adopters.
My Byron Buxton question for you.
Sure.
So he's batting leadoff tomorrow night, first spring game. Do you think if, let's say Byron Buxton's playing well, maybe he isn't fully blossoming, but playing well and certainly an everyday contributor, is leadoff the best spot for Byron Buxton?
Well, I don't think that
Because I think he could be a run producer.
Yeah, I do too. And I think eventually Byron Buxton could be the kind of hitter that could hit 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever. The biggest question to me, Phil, is that on-base percentage. And not to get too stat geeky, but I'm going to. Like, if you have a low OBP guy at the top of the lineup, it's cutting off the total number of runs that you can score over a full season. A lot of people are going to say, yeah, but he's so fast. So forget about that for a second. I would rather have a plodding, 400 on-base guy bat leadoff like Victor Martinez than I would have Speedy Gonzalez, who's not going to get on base as much. I just think that OBP is probably the what you should prioritize the most out of the spots.
Sure.
1 and 2, and 2 I would treat it a little bit differently. 2, some teams are putting their best hitter number 2 right now, while others are still going the number 3 route for that hitter. I do think that there's something to be said about, quote-unquote, handling the bat in the number 2 spot. The kind of guy that, all right, if leadoff guy gets on base 40% of the time, that means that 40% of the time you're going to be coming up there needing to either move that runner over or drive him in or do something that's going to require a little bit of bat ball skill, and not everybody can do that.
Because, okay, real quick, when I hear someone say you like the bat control guy on that 2 spot, I hope you don't mean the Matt Tolber slappy hitter.
No, because Matt Tolber doesn't get on base.
You're saying someone who can put the ball in play.
I want somebody like, I wouldn't bat Miguel Sano second, even though I think he's probably their best hitter, because he's a power or strikeout guy, and I don't want an empty plate appearance there. I want somebody who, is going to get on base a ton. That's first priority. But second, after that, is somebody who can, if the situation calls for it, which is not all the time, but occasionally, you are going to want to hit a ball to the right side, or you're going to want to try to, if the guy hits a leadoff triple, if Byron Buxton hits a ground ball to the shortstop and he winds up with a triple because he's that fast, well, then I want somebody that can get the ball in the air and for sure get that sacrifice fly at a minimum. That's a unique kind of skill set to go along with on-base percentage.
I like him hitting leadoff in spring because it gets him an extra at-bat pretty much every game.
Yep.
He can get that 3rd or 4th at-bat and then come out of the game. Sure.
Because he might be.
My guess is he winds up as a bottom third of the order guy for a couple reasons. Number one, wait till the on-base percentage comes in. Wait till he cuts down on the strikeouts. You can still use the power in that 7th or 8th spot because there's going to be some guys in the middle of the order who get on base. But then, if you put him down in the bottom third, he does feel a little less pressure, I think.
Take the pressure
than
off
if he's, and that is real. I know sometimes it can be cliche that you want to put a guy down there to take the pressure off. There's always pressure. You're in the big leagues. He's a top prospect.
Yeah.
But then again, don't take it to the extreme, because remember Ron Gardenhire in 2010 refused to move Delman Young up in the order when he was like their best hitter for 3 months. So put him down in the bottom third when the season starts. Let him get used to sort of that second wave of scout jobs because he performed so well in September. And then move him up maybe in June if he's performing well.
Quick anecdote on Buxton and pressure, because I think we all saw him crumble, right, at times. No contact to speak of. He was striking out all the time. It was a big problem. And then September came and he was awesome. One player who was on the team last year and remains on the team said that they've talked with Buxton about not necessarily shying away from that hype, right? Because there's so much pressure that comes with being the number 1 overall prospect in baseball. And every Twins fan knew his name in 2012 when he was a kid. And he's still a kid. He turned 23 in December, and the weight of the franchise is more or less on the shoulders of Buxton and Miguel Sano. That's a lot of pressure. So in the past, you might have said, like, sort of tiptoe on eggshells, hey, don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. Eventually you'll be fine. This player said, they've talked with Buxton about saying, screw that, man. They're saying you're the top prospect. Go be the top prospect. Go own it. And I agree with that line of thinking, especially because I know that Byron Buxton is headstrong. Not in like a stubborn way, not in a cocky way. I've got a column coming on Buxton later today, and it's about as like him as a player and him as a leader. Byron Buxton is like as humble as they come, basically, for a very confident guy. And the thing that this player characterized basically about Buxton is that they're challenging him to go own it. Yeah, there's a lot of hype. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure. So go answer the bell. And I think that's a really smart way to handle a guy like Byron Buxton, who is not mentally fragile by any means. I think he can definitely handle that.
Paul chimes in, somebody should tell Mackey how awkward it looks when he doesn't look at Wetmore while he's talking.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything.
Mackey looks utterly disinterested. Here, I'll fix that.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything.
Continue talking.
So about Byron Buxton, I don't think I'd bet him leadoff to start the year, but I am curious to know if he can eventually handle that job.
Oh, tell me more.
Oh, yeah? Are you curious? I'm gonna have a whole column on this stuff on 1500ESPN.com later, just because I'm glad your attentiveness has really taken a 180. Thank you for pointing that out, Paul.
I just listened to Judge Zolgad and stared at him for 4 hours. So
yeah, that's probably
I'm just
enough.
looking to zone out at this point.
That's
and
probably
sort
enough. If he has the on-base percentage there this season, which I'm not sure I expect right out of the gate, but who knows? Stranger things have certainly happened, and I think September was at least somewhat for real. Like, I'm not saying Buxton's not going to make it. Is he a superstar right now? Maybe, but I think it's kind of unlikely, so I probably wouldn't bet him leadoff to start the year. But to your point, 100% agree. As we get power washed seats right behind us here, but 100% agree. Start him batting leadoff just to see how he handles it, how he handles the attention, how he handles the pressure, how he handles the fact that he's the table setter now. And I think long term he's more than a table setter. I don't think he's a guy that just gets on base and fakes towards second base to distract the pitcher and give the next guy fastballs. I think he's a legitimate difference maker just with the bat, and he'll have some power to go along with that.
Yeah, I think at some point speed might go away in his late 20s, and I think he's a valuable player if you take speed away starting in 2017.
He's not Mike Trout, but he's like Mike Trout in that you kind of just have to forget for a second that he's super fast, because there's a good bat in there too, and then the seasoning on the steak is the fact that he also runs home to home faster than any player I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm. So I'm super disinterested in what he has to say. So
okay, hard to blame you.
We're gonna peace out. Thank you for consuming all of our content on 1500ESPN.com. Check him out on Facebook too.
Yes.
Derek Wetmore MLB. I'm Phil Mackey Radio on Facebook. And our Touch 'em All podcast, we're hoping to have another episode out before the end of the week here.
And my email list, if you want to be on the Baseball Insiders email list, easy for me to say, that is approaching 900 people. So 900 people have joined the club. Thank you so much to any of you who are already on there. And if you're not a part of the movement, maybe it's time to jump on now, get started before this thing gets overloaded.
All right, bye everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.